Are you ready for a topic that's been making headlines around the world?
It involves the leader of a powerful nation, a conflict that has been ongoing for years, and a statement that has left many wondering about the future of the country.
That's right. We're talking about Russian President Vladimir Putin's recent declaration that the fight in his country is not just about territory or power, but about the very existence of Russia itself.
In this video, we'll dive deeper into Putin's statement and what it could mean for the future of Russia and the global community. So buckle up and get ready for a fascinating ride. Welcome to this video discussing Russian President Vladimir Putin's recent statement on the ongoing conflict in his country. In his speech, Putin declared that the current situation in Russia is not just a fight for territory or power, but a fight for the very existence of his nation. The conflict in Russia has been ongoing for several years, with tensions rising between the government and various groups within the country. Putin's government has been accused of human rights violations, censorship, and limiting political opposition, while some groups have been advocating for greater autonomy or even independence from Russia.
Putin emphasized that the conflict is not just about these issues, but about the survival of the Russian people as a nation. He argued that Russia has faced many challenges throughout its history, including invasion and occupation by foreign powers, and that the current situation is no different. He pointed to the annexation of Crimea in 2014 as a critical turning point, saying that it was necessary to protect the rights and security of ethnic Russians in the region. However, this move has been criticized by many countries as a violation of international law. Despite international condemnation, Putin has remained firm in his stance and has continued to take a hardline approach to the conflict.
He has argued that the Russian people must stand together to defend their nation against external threats, including those posed by foreign powers. Putin's statement has been met with mixed reactions. Some have expressed concern that it may be a prelude to further military action or aggression in the region. Others have suggested that it is simply an attempt to rally support for his government and justify his actions to the Russian people. Regardless of the motivations behind Putin's statement, it is clear that the conflict in Russia is far from over. The stakes are high, and the outcome will have significant implications, not only for Russia, but for the wider global community as well. The situation will undoubtedly continue to be closely watched by observers around the world. In his address, he spent half an hour discussing the West's intentions to subjugate Russia, and then another hour talking about day-to-day socio-economic problems in a tone of optimism, as if nothing, in particular, was happening. Putin spoke in more emotional and radical terms than usual about the destructive role of the West, appearing increasingly convinced that the West is intent on inflicting a strategic defeat on Russia at any cost.
Putin's address implies that Russia and the West are incompatible, so Russia can do nothing but fight to be the last one standing in the battle for survival. The main message that he wanted to get across to the West in his speech was that it is impossible to defeat Russia on the battlefield. Putin is presenting something of an ultimatum. Either the West drops its anti-Russia policy, or the world will face creeping multifarious nuclear escalation. Putin's State of the Nation address effectively suggests that in the growing confrontation with the West, Russia will rely on one sole argument: the nuclear option. In this respect, suspending the New START treaty also sends a warning to non-Western countries of the consequences for the entire world of the West's anti-Russian policies. Russian President has long blamed the West for the conflict in Ukraine, accusing them of interfering in the country's internal affairs and supporting anti-Russian forces.
In Putin's view, the 2014 revolution in Ukraine, which ousted the pro-Russian President Viktor Yanukovych, was a Western-backed coup that threatened Russia's strategic interests.
Putin has also accused the West of reneging on promises made after the collapse of the Soviet Union not to expand NATO eastward, and of seeking to contain Russia through economic sanctions and other means.
According to Putin, the conflict in Ukraine is not a result of Russia's aggression, but rather a consequence of the West's hostility and efforts to undermine Russian interests. Putin's aim is to rally support for his government at home and to justify Russia's actions to the international community. However, the international community, including the United Nations, has widely condemned Russia's actions in Ukraine as a violation of international law and Ukraine's sovereignty. Western leaders have imposed economic sanctions on Russia and provided military support to Ukraine in an effort to deter further aggression. Although the Russian economy has avoided a predicted collapse, it is still expected to see a 3-4 drop in GDP, and recovery is not expected until at least 2024.
The government and central bank have implemented conservative fiscal policies and made preparations for sanctions, but the effect of sanctions has been more prolonged than anticipated.
The fall in industrial production has been relatively small, but this is due to increased military expenditure, which masks a decline in civilian sectors. As a result of Russia's dependence on imports of high-tech goods, mainly from the West, the departure of Western companies and the break in trade with Europe will continue to hold the Russian economy back, and investment is at risk of being reduced. The government's focus is financing the war with a third of all expenditure going to the security sectors, while expenditure on the economy and social programs is being reduced. The reorientation of Russian production toward new markets also presents significant challenges due to limited infrastructure and the refusal of international container shipping companies to work with Russia.
While Putin seeks to justify Russia's actions as a response to Western aggression, the international community has widely condemned Russia's violation of Ukraine's sovereignty and imposed economic sanctions in response.
The impact of these sanctions, coupled with the government's prioritization of military expenditure over economic and social programs, has led to a prolonged recession in Russia, with recovery not expected until at least 2024. As the country continues to grapple with the consequences of its actions in Ukraine, it remains to be seen whether the fight for the existence of Russia itself will ultimately strengthen or weaken the country's position on the global stage. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. That will be all for today's video. Thanks for staying tuned.
Please remember to hit the subscribe button and notification bell so you can always watch more amazing videos like this. See you in the next video.